Hello hobbyists and welcome to this week's video at Hobbytime at Healys. Thank you very much for tuning in. As the title suggests, this week I'm going to be showing you how I went about creating my own transfers for my Warhammer 40,000 army. Now this technique can hopefully apply to any transfers you want to create for any of your miniatures, but I'm going to be focusing on how I made them for specifically my Angels Sanguine, my Blood Angels army. So by now you should know, get yourself a lovely cuppa and let's dive on it. Now, what I want to go through is a couple of things about this video. So firstly, I'm not going to be going through what digital software I used to create the physical design I wanted for my decals. Whatever design you want to use and whatever software you're comfortable with for things like Photoshop, PowerPoint, Paint, Photopea, there's loads of software out there for you to have a look at. So take one, get your design ready. This is basically about looking at the physical paper itself, how I went about printing it, and how it applies to the transfer to show you the end result. First off, make sure you pick the correct paper. Mainly out there you're going to have two types, which is going to be your white and your transparent. Now if you have any white detailing on your design that you want to print out, I would suggest buying the white paper. The reason for this is because printers don't print in white, there's no white ink, so anything that if you basically print out, if you do it on the transparent paper, then it's going to become clear. So as an example for this, I'm going to show you this design here that we had, the skull on my symbol. This is printed on the white paper, because if that was printed off on the clear, that skull would be transparent and would match whatever colour is on the shoulder pad that you're applying it to. Now that can work in your favour if you wanted to do it that way, if you wanted that transparent or you just wanted to do an outline. But first off, yes, so you need to decide if you're doing transparent or if you're doing white. Now with that, each one comes with its own challenges. To use white, you're going to have to colour the box whichever colour you need it. So for myself, I was going onto a black shoulder pad, so I've put a black box around my design. If I was doing it onto a red shoulder pad, I would do my best to find a colour match to the red, and I put a red box around it. So lots of sort of little things that might take some tinkering to do. If you're doing the transparent, you can kind of go a bit mad with it. You pick whichever you want, and the advantage with the transparent is if your design is a single block colour, so for example, if it was just a solid black skull with wings, or if it was a black sword, scythe, loads of different designs, you could print that out on the transparent, and that would just apply like any other standard decal. But when doing the white, you'll need to match it to the background, a little bit more difficult. Sticking with paper, tip number 2, make sure that you get the right paper for your printer. You will either have inkjet paper or laser printer. This is a very simple step, but make sure you order the right one so you don't waste any money. So if you want to get yourself some paper for your inkjet printer, I'll put a link to the description to some on Amazon, and the same for laser as well. Now this is just, you don't have to get these ones, this is just the ones I used for my laser printer, and I think it worked great, but there are other brands out there, so feel free to choose who you like. But make sure you check your printer and you've got a compatible paper for it. Tip number 3. In this case, what I'm going to say to yourself is test, test, test. So this is a piece of regular A4 paper. Now, you tinkering with your design is going to take some time to get it to the right size. Whether you're going for, if you say sticking with 40,000 for example, you're putting something on a Terminator or a Dreadnought or a Space Marine shoulder pad, there's a very big difference in terms of the decals sizes you're going to need. I would suggest take some time to print it out on a plain sheet of paper in a variety of sizes, and then cut out to the size you need. And once you've found out what it is, make sure that you've noted down what the dimensions of it are, whether you want to do that in pixels, millimeters. I did mine in mil because I just thought it was a little easier. And just basically kind of like you would do a dry fit when you're building a model, so you know, where you'll put it together just to try and make sure the pieces fit. Do the same with your test transfers. Just hold them over the shoulder pad, kind of bend them into shape, don't put any liquid on them to apply them, or wherever you're looking to put it, and just make sure they are right. Once you're happy with it and you're happy with the design size, do one final test sheet, this time of all the sizes you need. And again, just cut a couple out, just make sure they all match up. If they're all good, then move on to your photo paper. So then go onto this and print it off. This stuff is quite expensive per sheet, but in terms of the grand scheme of things, it's going to save you time and money just for a few sheets of A4. So top tip number 3, make sure you test print a page. My top tip number 4 is you would need to prep your paper. Now with this, you have two options. You can either, as we saw in the demonstration before, you can either not prep the paper, which I personally at this moment I'm leaning towards not doing. It does mean that you have to be a lot more delicate with the transfers themselves, but I think the finish they come out with is great because they're easier to apply. However, they do tear easy. There is a chance that the ink can run, depending on which printer you're using. Alternatively, you can pre-varnish your sheet. So I used Citadel's varnish here, the miniature varnish, and it came out fine for me. I didn't think there was any really problems with them. They are slightly more difficult to handle. So if you are worried about tearing your transfers, I would say give them one go over with your varnish early, especially if you're using inkjet paper. I would say that's the one where you have to varnish it regardless. Laser, if you're using a laser printer, you can get away with it, but if you're using an inkjet printer, you really need to protect that ink. So yeah, tip number 4 is basically prep your paper before application. And finally, just to round this off, it would be tip number 5, and this is to get yourself some of this stuff. This is Microset and Microsol. Now, these were fantastic at helping me put the transfers on, and they will really genuinely just help you with your transfers, for me at any rate. I did a good comparison of what it looks like with water and without water in one of my previous videos, which I'll put the link for just up here. So check that out if you want to see the comparison of there. It's a little bit later on in the video, but check that out. These are great, and especially because this is a bit of an unknown, you need any help you can get. These worked really, really well, as you saw, and I think these are invaluable when applying transfers. On top of that as well, you will need to, when you're cutting them out, make that decision of if you're going to cut very close to the design, if it's a simple design, or if you're going to, kind of like I did, just cut it so it fits the shoulder pad and paint over it. Overall, I'm quite happy with the results. I'm going to give you another close-up of it now. And as you can see here, I think these have come out really well. I mean, the models themselves aren't finished, so kind of ignore that. But the transfers I think are great. You have here the Intercessor Sergeant, which was done with the varnish. There was a slight bubble in that, but that's entirely on me. That's nothing to do with the varnish itself. That was because I slipped when I was putting it on, and it was too wet, so I caused a bubble and I didn't spot it until it had dried. And then here we have the Intercessor himself. This was done without any varnish, and again you can see this has come out beautifully, and I am under no doubt that this one will come out, the Sergeant will come out exactly the same. But over the black surface, personally I don't think, unless you're getting really up close to it, you can't tell that it has an already pre-black background on there. So I hope these tips have helped you out in terms of having a look at seeing if you wanted to try and do your own transfers. I've made some mistakes on this when I tried it my first time, made some mistakes when I've done it the second time, and it's all a learning curve. But if you can't get the transfers you need, there are some companies out there who will happily make them for you if you want to get them professionally done. But if you fancy having a go at making some yourself because you've got a custom design or something, I hope these tips help you out. And that's pretty much it for the video today. So as always, if you liked what you saw, please hit that like and subscribe button. It is much appreciated. And also that little notification bell to stay tuned for when I release any other videos. So thank you very much for tuning in. As always, we do our streams on Twitch, so check that out every Sunday, starting from 1 PM, where it's myself and some friends, and we hang out and we chat hobby. So come and join us in the chat. Also, as always, check out my other social medias, Twitter, Instagram, and obviously Twitch, as I just mentioned. But thank you very much. Stay safe out there, and remember, be positive and be an ambassador for the hobby.